Hello summoners and welcome back to another ProGuides video. In today's video we're going to go over 7 common mentalities that prevent players from improving and then therefore climbing. The mental game is super important in most games and League is no exception. You'll need to avoid these types of mindsets or make changes if you find any of these apply to you. For today's question of the day, we want to know which champion do you guys personally think is the best design champ in the game. Right now, I think a safe answer is something like Blitzcrank, but my personal answer would have to be Orianna. She is pretty simple, but also super effective. She's good inside of solo queue and competitive play. Her high impact ult is really awesome and can lead to some awesome gameplay moments, but she's also not the hardest champion to play, although there is clear growth when you do play her. To me, Orianna is the quintessential awesome design champion that we really look for in League of Legends. One more thing before we start, are you guys always getting ganked in your own lane, constantly demolished? Well, don't worry, we've got you covered. ProGuides is the #1 proven way to quickly level up your League of Legends skills. Whether you are looking for a tier list, a champion guide, coaching, or courses from your favorite pro players, ProGuides is where you'll find all of it. Even players like Nightblue, Bunnyfufu, and Locodoco support ProGuides, so what are you waiting for? Click the link to start improving right now in the description, and let's get started. The first thing that a lot of players instantly do when they lose a game is that they blame their champion. Some take it a step further and voice their discontent on their champion over the internet, Twitter, official forums, Reddit, stuff like that, or even amongst their own friends. Win rates, statistics, all things like that are relative to the game, but they are only a single factor in winning games and should not discount everything else. Becoming too fixated on your champion being weak at the end of the day is simply making more excuses. There are plenty of players who manage to climb to high elo with any champion, and the only reason that you're not able to is because you're still making excuses. Simply put, a lot of the reason that many champions do have a sub 50% win rate is not just because you think they're weak, but actually because most players aren't good enough to use their champion's strengths to their full ability and then circumvent their weaknesses. There's always something that you could be doing better, and if you need guidance, just look over the games of better players. See what they do that's different from you. Some champions, of course, are objectively weaker in the current meta, but there are things that they can do that others can't. Things like cheese ganking or forcing unexpected all-ins can provide the necessary momentum to get a lot of these champions rolling. It's very rare that you see a champion like Twitch Jungle at the highest level, but of course there are some one-tricks who have been Twitch Jungle mains for years. Simply put, they also just do everything you need to do in order to win games on Twitch Jungle. You won't see them at the top of tier lists in S+ tier, but of course they can get 90-something% win rates. Before you go and just chalk it up to your champion being weak and call it a day, have you really gone and watched the higher ranked players on your champion? Are you certain that every single skirmish and fight played out completely optimally, but the only reason that you're not winning is because your champion isn't good enough? Well, if your answer is yes, you're either challenger or delusional. You're better off putting your focus on what you could be doing better rather than figuring out how bad your champion is right now. On the other side of that coin, a lot of players tend to immediately point their fingers at their opponents and claim that they were only winning because they're playing OP champions. It's not fair, and if they were playing against balanced champions, the game wouldn't have turned out the way that it did. There's a lot of reasons why this mindset can lead to you stalling instead of improving. I've been guilty of this mindset myself, and I know what it's like to play against champions that feel unfair to play against. I really hated playing against the last iteration of Rise. You know, the one that could perma-root you? While he definitely was problematic, shown by his new rework, the mindset of blaming losses on OP picks really did not help me climb at all. Every single time I ran into one, I would instantly mentally check out and complain about how Riot needs a better balance team. Did I improve? Absolutely not. Did I do anything but make excuses? Nope. Instead of trying to find a solution, a lot of us just complain about the problem. Complaining brings awareness to an issue, sure, but it doesn't provide any immediate results. If you're losing and blaming OP picks, you have a very simple solution to this: ban them. When one specific champion seems so ridiculous to you, then the only thing you can do is ban it and get over it. If you don't want to ban it, or you're banning something else right now, there are counterpicks that you can look for and look to play against it. Even though a lot of people will complain how broken Set is right now, and you might be onto something, sure, you could be totally right. I've seen plenty of Sets feed ranged top laners. If you don't know how to play a ranged top laner versus Set, either you ban it or you learn how to play a ranged top laner. Find answers, don't continue to complain about the issues, instead be the person who can beat the problem. Have you ever heard people say these two phrases? My team is holding me back. I did everything I possibly could. Honestly, my teams are just too heavy. They won't let me carry them. How many times have you heard that over the years? At the end of the day, thinking thoughts like these really don't show where your focus should be. The only thing that you should be focusing on is yourself, because if you think about it logically, which is hard sometimes, but if you do, why would you waste your energy and mental capacity focusing on things that you literally cannot control? Aside from sidetracking you, the general mindset of I'm doing everything I possibly can is super toxic for yourself both in this game and in life. If you're telling yourself that there's literally nothing you could have done better, you're saying that you played objectively a perfect game, meaning that you are the best player in the world, no matter what. In your mind, you probably don't actually believe that you did nothing wrong and that you couldn't have improved at all. It's just that you probably felt you were good enough to at least win that one game. This is not how any good competitor thinks. Athletes are constantly conditioning themselves, seeking to build up their own endurance and their own strength. They're working on their technique, pushing their limits over and over again. Quoting a former Olympic athlete, Pagabo Street, to uncover your true potential, you must first find your own limits, and then you have to have the courage to blow past them. What's truly holding you back is your own mindset and the fact that the sky should be the limit. Time and time again, we've seen people break the boundaries of what we thought was possible, and this really should apply to our gameplay. You can't limit yourself. And to be blunt, I think most people who believe this, aside from the ones that are just completely wrong, probably don't actually think this, and most of the time it was just an unlucky game, but people who regularly believe this to be true are not able to face the facts. It could just be that this was an ego problem, but I don't think that that's the best answer. Probably more often than not, they just don't even know what their own mistakes are. This is where watching high elo players or pros can really come in handy, because you're able to compare your own gameplay to theirs. Even if your aspirations aren't to play professionally, we're all playing the same game and it's essentially a free resource to learn from. The next mentality, despite the fact that it's not really a problem of ego, rather the opposite, is the mentality of saying that you just suck. If you suck, I'm gonna say same. It's not terrible to think that you suck, and this in fact does work for a lot of people. What it comes down to is that the way that you believe that you suck. I suck, there's a lot that I need to improve on, versus I suck and it's totally hopeless and I can't get any better. Some people get more demotivated than others when they believe that they're not good at the game. I'm personally more of a fan of taking a positive spin on things. Rather than believing that you just completely suck, try thinking about yourself as I'm still improving. You might not be at the level that you want to be quite yet, but with time and some failures, you'll eventually get there. After all, no one wins every single game that they play, and no one starts out being amazing at the game. It's something that you need to practice and learn over time, just like anything else in life. This stage of you sucking is one of the many steps you'll need to take on your path to becoming a good league player. Just be careful, because it can be dangerous. Every other month, there's some trending meme or catchphrase that people really gravitate towards. Top lane impact, LOL. Imagine playing ADC in 2020. Are statements that seem to be tossed around without much regard. There's a lot of players that blame their roles, and I honestly don't think it's very profound. Everyone has their own opinions, and that's fine, but it's really easy to fall into the trap of accepting that your role is weak. If you're losing and everyone is screaming that your role is underpowered, it's really tempting to believe it. You should not fall for this trap because, again, it will end up causing more problems than it really will find solutions for you. There's no way that this can possibly help you by saying it. It's frustrating when it feels like you can't make an impact as a marksman when your top laner is feeding. However, it's equally frustrating when you're playing top lane and your jungler runs it down your lane, or if you're a mid laner and both the enemy top laner and support keep ganking you and you're getting 3 to 4 manned all game. If you fall into the victim mindset, it also might push you into learning a new role. There's nothing wrong with experimenting new roles and trying more things, but you could potentially end up switching roles several times. If you're going to play a role because it's perceived as strong, you're eventually going to end up playing several different roles when you could just be spending your time specializing in one. Every single role has the potential to carry right now. In spite of what the general consensus says, even the underpowered roles, like people might say jungle or bot lane, they're still bringing players at the top of the ladder. I know a lot of people are complaining about top lane, yet in North America right now there are several top laners in the top 10. Korea's top 5 has a marksman main, as well as a poppy top player. Not really seen as a popular champion, this just comes to show that there's more to the game than just playing a strong role. There are plenty of support and jungle players as well across the leaderboards in the top 10. Of course, we cannot leave out the next mentality, which is saying that your teammates could do better. You know what? I agree with you. Your teammates can do better, because by that logic, anybody can do better. And there is no way whatsoever that you can directly change this. You can indirectly impact the game by communicating with your teammates, being a better teammate, pinging them, setting them up for success, making more ganks for them, doing whatever you can to give them more resources. You can make it easier for your teammates to play the game, but you cannot physically control their character. You probably cannot stop them from going AFK, and if they want to troll, they're gonna troll. We've been saying this a lot, but the main point is that you need to focus on yourself. Don't expend unnecessary energy on things that will not directly benefit you. Focusing on your teammates does not help you improve as a player at all. Although you might be able to analyze a fight and recognize that something your teammate did cost you a fight, it doesn't do any good to dwell on it. And most people do that, by the way. Acknowledging it and learning from it is totally different than dwelling on it, but lingering that feeling, pinging their R for the rest of the game because they used their ult in a bad way, is going to tilt them and it's going to tilt you, and that's going to make it even more difficult to win the game. It's super obvious when your teammates mess up. They're usually dead and you usually have to pay consequences for their actions. But guess what? It's also super obvious when you mess up, and you do a lot. Remember that you can always communicate with your teammates. You don't have to be nice. I'm not asking you to babysit them because I know solo queue feels like that sometimes. But coming off as neutral or slightly positive with your messages will make teammates more willing to accept your criticism, which is why I have a quick story for you. As some of you guys might know, I am typically a top lane player and I do like to play champions like Riven. However, there was a time where I started picking up Ivern because I noticed his win rate was super good. Obviously, his win rate is really high because he's not a champion that's super popular. So, back in Season 7, I played a lot of Ivern and he was a really OP champion and was very strong. I adopted the mindset of being everybody's best friend. I was super nice in chat. I was always being positive, and I was playing a really strong champion in the meta, and I was not being toxic at all. I didn't ping people, I was just trying to be the nicest summoner that I could. When I say that I feel like I won 10 or 15% more games than I should have just because I was being nice, I mean it. I would end up climbing to Diamond 1 with an extremely good win rate, not just because I was the best Ivern player in the world. In fact, I wasn't even a jungle main, but I felt like I was winning games because I was just being too nice. They really felt bad for me. They felt like this Ivern is trying, so you know what? I should try too. Flaming people obviously accomplishes nothing, but we've all done it. I don't blame you for being upset if you're super fed on ADC and then they didn't peel you and they lost you the game. I get it, it's frustrating. But flaming them, is that really going to make it better? Typing to them after you're all dead, you're aced, and they're killing your Nexus, are you going to really get anything out of flaming them? No, you're not going to increase your chances of winning. Maybe your ego's going to feel a little bit better, but that's about it. Finally, the last mindset that is pretty common that holds players back is just constantly telling themselves that their opponents are bad. Why is this holding you back? Well, confidence number one is really important. But if you keep telling yourself that your opponents are so bad, it makes you take the game less seriously. You'll end up developing a superiority complex whether or not you know it, and start thinking that you're just a cut above the rest of your competition. Your mistakes are less significant to you, and you start focusing on what your enemies are doing wrong. This could be good as you can take advantage of your enemy's shortcomings, but oftentimes it's done for the satisfaction of feeling that you're just so much better than your opponents. A lot of us play to feel good. Being better and beating our opponents is satisfying, and that's what keeps people playing this game even 10 years down the road. However, allowing this feeling to be the only reason that we're playing can really distract us from trying to improve. You want to be confident, but not overconfident. Even if you're playing better than your opponents, continue focusing on what you can do to even be better than you were before, better than you were yesterday, better than you were last week, and try to be better next week. Anyway, that's going to conclude this video. Once again, thank you guys for watching, and we really appreciate you watching all the way to the end. Make sure you check out ProGuides.com as well as our YouTube channel for more informational content to always help you improve. Until next time, good luck on Summoner's Rift, and we will see you all then.